Guys, this is Jacqui Cooper, and I am with Jacqui Cooper Travels. And those that are following the podcast know that I love to connect with individuals within my LinkedIn community. And I recently connected with Tilly, and we actually have something in common. We both have gone to Vassar, which I'm really excited about our connection for that. But we also have a lot of other similar interests. We're both individuals who are concerned about the environment and protecting our community and the world. And we have so much that we can learn from Tilly because of what she's currently doing and where she's going to go. Thank you so much for being on today. I'm super excited to have you here so you can share your story and we can learn more about what you're doing. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Jacqui.
Sure. So I've just been going through your LinkedIn profile again, and you have a lot of great things that you've done. You have an interest in environmental science and research. Why don't we start there? How did you become interested in that area, and what are some of the things that you've done? Because I know you have a long list of projects that you've been involved with.
Yeah, so I feel like my interest in the environment and sustainability and all of those things kind of stem from growing up in Colorado, which is just like such a nature heavy state. And my dad actually was and is a renewable engineer. So I feel like I learned so much and I've been like so connected to that part of the world and myself and that kind of thinking. So I think for me, it was really important to always have that be an aspect of my life. And then coming from Colorado, which is a really landlocked state, I just became really into the ocean. And that's something that I love to be. And it felt kind of like this critical part of my identity, even though I never got to interact with it like all the time. And then I had the privilege of getting an internship at the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center, which is a lab based in Maryland in the Chesapeake Bay. So I was able to really just like continue to develop my love both for environmental science and for marine organisms. And I feel like that was a really, really wonderful opportunity for me. But I kind of, in the last couple months and year, I've kind of turned away from that to be more people oriented in terms of sustainability and its impact.
So I just want to, before we talk about what you're doing now, I do want to kind of go back over to what you were doing with the Smithsonian, because I noticed that there's something here that I would like to talk about. It's the American Women of Science Recovery History Defining the Future Symposium. That's a lot of words, but I love the fact that it's involving women and science and a lot of great topics. So do you want to talk more about what you did during that symposium?
Yeah, absolutely. So while I worked at the Smithsonian, I actually interned there for 2 summers. And my second summer, I did an independent research project. And so for my independent research project, I was working in the marine disease ecology lab. So pretty much I was looking at oysters and I was looking at disease transmission in the eastern oyster within the Chesapeake Bay. And so the disease we were studying usually follows a seasonal time change of when it's released into the water and when the organisms get infected. So I looked at that over a 24-hour period. So my data from my experiment, I actually was able to present it at a conference called the Coastal and Estuarine Research Foundation Conference in Mobile, Alabama, which was really fun. And then that data is being used in a paper that's currently in its final stages of being published. So from that, the Smithsonian and some of my mentors there asked if I would be interested in doing a little lightning talk that was kind of more of like a citizen science, very basic understanding of kind of the research that I was doing and how it impacts kind of the environment specifically in the Chesapeake Bay region. So it was a really great opportunity because I'm really interested in, being able to make it so that people can understand the science that we're doing, because it is kind of filled with all of this jargon and it seems very complex, but it's not actually that complex. So it was really awesome to be featured among some really amazing and impressive interns who were doing similar projects that were impacting the environment. And that was something that was just really incredible for me. And I felt super privileged to be among just so many women who were radically changing the field of science and for them to be spotlighted during that time.
So, what should we know based upon your research? Is there something that we can do to help the bay or the oysters? I mean, I know that I'm asking you to do like a little short summary, but what takeaway could we, kind of, how can we make a difference?
I think it's a hard question to answer because pretty much my experiment kind of evaluated oysters and disease transmission and kind of the trends that it follows on a day-to-day basis. And so pretty much this disease, it follows a seasonal time change. So the hotter it is, the saltier the water, and therefore the more disease transmission. And the water gets hotter because of climate change, which I think is a really complex topic. So battling climate change, I feel like would be the most basic answer to kind of combat this intense disease transmission in the Chesapeake Bay. So I also think it's really interesting just because disease transmission is something that it's like you can't control it, but I think we can do a lot to increase reef restoration and increase the oyster population, the native oyster population, which is really important and critical as a lot of them are getting infected and dying in the Bay region.
I know it's a major industry too, so it's definitely something, economically that Maryland relies on as well. So I also noticed that like you said, your interest in the environment has been long term, but I was really struck with how you created, actually, you might want to tell the story, how you created a position called a sustainability coordinator at one of your jobs. You want to share more about that? Because what I think is ingenious is how you created something with your love in a job that might not have been normally thinking about it, but you were able to blend the two and really make a difference. So why don't you share what you did? Because I think it's great.
Yeah, so actually after I graduated Vassar, it was a tough job market with COVID. And so I was hired as a barista at a local coffee shop, a coffee shop that's really integral to like my neighborhood community. And it's just a really big part, has been a big part of my life since I was growing up. And so working there, I think it was something that I started to realize, especially with COVID, you can't use any dishes or ceramics or anything like that. So everything has to be disposed of. So it kind of struck me the way that like our business was dealing with it. And especially like I'm from Denver and there's so many amazing local suppliers for, it was also a bar at night. So for alcohol and coffee and all of these things. And so what I really did is like push the management, we didn't have an official recycling program for our business. So I pushed the business to get a recycling bin because before that they didn't think it was possible and they didn't think they could afford it. So figured out a way to get that done. And then also just like implementing different practices and how our business worked. So, whether or not we offer someone a straw and kind of from the ground up, both as employees and as people in the management, and also going off of that, just being able to like change the mindset where pretty much all of the goods from when I left, most of the goods at our coffee shop were all local suppliers. So most of our alcohol, our ice cream, all of the baked goods, like everything was all from more local suppliers, which was really amazing.
I love it. I love the fact that you were both supporting local as well as thinking strategically about every piece of the business. So that way you could also support the environment, and still be sensitive to what was going on currently. And I think that that's an example that everyone can think about doing, whether it's in your home or in a small business. Because if everyone takes one step forward, then it just kind of impacts the whole. So I think that's great. I know that you're also involved with another great organization, Tonic. Do you want to talk more about what Tonic does and what you're doing with them?
Yeah, so I feel like Tonic kind of I feel like as I've been kind of going through my college career and now more in like my professional career, I'm kind of trying to hit on all the stones of things that I'm really interested in to hopefully be able to have the perfect career that I want in the future, which I don't know what it is yet, but I think we'll figure it out. So I love science and I think that was such a huge part of like who I am, and research was amazing, but I feel like I love people and there was a huge disconnect because oysters can't talk. Um, So I feel like it was really amazing for me to work at Tonic, which is a market research and consulting firm. So if you don't know what market research is, it's pretty much I do qualitative research where we interview people about specific products or specific brands that they might be interested in and think about what they have to say. And sometimes that has to do, with their healthcare or their benefits or their financials. And sometimes it has to do with what kind of chocolate they like. And I think it's really amazing because I'm getting to hit on so many different parts of industry and learn and listen to so many people and be able to use my brain and create strategies from that. So I feel like I'm just further training my brain to learn how to interact with the people side of business, which has been really, really amazing. And I think it's been a great opportunity for me to like learn from amazing people and develop my own thinking around kind of how humans just interact with brands. And I think that's really amazing.
That is, I mean, the whole, there's a whole psychology, involved with, like you said, how do you connect with people? How do you connect products to people? And then you'll be able to apply that as well to how do you have people interact with products that will benefit the environment? So down the road. I know that with this podcast, that there's a little block of information underneath. And for those that might be new to podcasting, if you have any desire to contact Tilly and connect with her because of her overlapping interests with yours, feel free. That information will be in the podcast. I know you've also traveled, and we always talk about travel on the podcast. Where have you gone and what's on your bucket list?
Yeah, I feel like really lucky that I've been able to travel so much in my life. And it's such an integral part of me wanting to be alive. And I feel like I'm always coming back to the ocean. So one of my favorite places in the world is I was able to study abroad in Spain. So my favorite thing to do there was just go to all these Spanish coastal towns and interact with all of the nature there and spend hours and hours just looking at all of these organisms in the water, which I mean, the ocean is totally different in Spain. And I think that was really, really amazing. And I think honestly, like my favorite place that I was able to travel, which isn't that exciting, but it's where I worked in the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. And the lab I was working on, it was in the Chesapeake Bay. So I was able to swim after work and be living and existing in the environment that I was working in and living practically in the middle of the woods in a house and then going and biking to work. And I think those were two really different experiences that I had with the ocean that I just feel so privileged to have. But I feel like traveling is like a huge part of who I am. And it's definitely something I want to keep doing. I would love to keep traveling to places where I can be challenged both intellectually and kind of for myself. So going anywhere where I can just heavily and deeply interact with nature. And I think I love, the ocean. So any place where that is something that can happen.
Is there a specific place on your bucket list that you might want to go to when you're able to kind of get back on a plane or on a boat and kind of travel around?
I really actually really want to go to Panama because I think that they have a really, really cool, diverse ecosystem there. And I think there's a lot of really amazing, like, I'm also really interested in corals and like coral research and resilience. That's actually what I wrote my thesis on at Vassar. So I would love to be able to go to Panama and see those, specifically how people are interacting with their environments there. That's something I'm really interested in. And the Great Barrier Reef, because I feel like I have to if I love the ocean and science.
I think that would definitely be great. Do you scuba dive?
It's on my bucket list. All on my bucket list. My mentor from the Smithsonian has been on my back to get scuba certified for years, and I haven't done it.
It's definitely, I'm not either, but if you're going to go to any of these reefs, I'm sure that it's something that will actually, when you probably get there, if you're able to get the certification there, it'll probably be a lot more exciting than if you do it in a pool. So where do you think you'll be in about 5 years down the road?
I mean, a part of me doesn't know because I think you can never guess what the future is, but I would love to be in a position where, I can combine all of the aspects of, I think, who I am, which is a scientist, a creator, a people person, and someone who's an environmentalist. Like, I'd love to be in a position. I think there's an amazing, this is a turning point in humanity and human history where it's starting to become, important to so many companies, and all of these positions are rising up for people to be able to come into those positions. So I would love to be in a position where I'm interacting with people and I'm using science and I'm using, creation to be able to help the world and, alleviate any impacts that we have on climate change. And I really think that education and, people being able to understand what's happening is like the biggest thing right now. So I'd love to be in a position where I could be, helping people and educating people and doing all those things while also like being involved in industry.
I have no doubt that you're definitely going to be a mover and a shaker and an influencer. And I look forward to continuing conversations with you to see where you end up and all your adventures. I know that it's that type of energy which creates the change that we need. And I know I'm of a different generation, but I definitely think that when individuals of like minds come together, no matter what their age, they can definitely be a positive force. So I applaud you with what you've been doing, and I look forward to hearing more about from you. So
Jacqui.
yep. So everyone who's been listening, please definitely subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and, take what you've heard here from Tilly's story, make a difference, think about one thing that you can do to change and make an improvement to help our environment. And there are a lot of different groups out there. So just, become connected because together we can all make a difference. So thank you so much, Tilly. I will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Jacqui.